depression, addiction, anxiety, cognitive ability. Now, you might be asking yourself, why the photo of sugar? Well, I have news for you. Depression, addiction, anxiety, and cognitive ability are all negatively affected by this simple, beautiful looking carbohydrate that most of us consume on a daily basis. If you are like me, the occasional sweet is fine, but honestly, when I think about it, I do notice a change in my overall mental health levels in regards to my anxiety and depression, and also cognitive ability. A question to ponder is whether or not sugar is causing a mental health crisis. I ask this because sugar consumption in the United States has risen dramatically over the past century and could become a ticking time bomb. Now let's go ahead and discuss the 4 ways sugar could be affecting your mental health. And also, please like and subscribe to the channel. I greatly appreciate it. So let's first look at where sugar came from. So the first chemically refined sugar appeared on the scene in India around 2,500 years ago, is what geography suggests. From there, the technique spread east towards China and west towards Persia in the early Islamic world. Eventually, it did reach the Mediterranean Sea and cities in the Mediterranean. Now, let's jump right back into 4 ways sugar could be harming your mental health. And let's start with a little overview and just some facts. So most people know that eating too much dessert and processed foods can contribute to physical health problems like obesity and type 2 diabetes. Far less attention, however, has been given to the impact on a high sugar diet on mental health, even though numerous studies have shown the deleterious effects a sweet tooth can have on your mood. Also, learning and quality of life as well in these studies have been impacted. Also, inflating waistlines, sugar and other sweeteners including high fructose corn syrup, honey, molasses, and maple syrup may contribute to a number of other mental health problems. So the overall point to this, once again, is that there have been studies that have shown overall that sugar does impact your mental health, but I don't want to completely bash on it because, once again, eating it in moderation is what is key with it. Small amounts, with it gives you a little bit of a burst of energy even, but it's that eating it chronically, daily, over and over again, that's where the negative impacts physically, but what I'm attacking today is the mental aspects of how it affects you. Now let's jump right on into number 1, depression. So let's start with depression. The ups and downs of high blood sugar followed by a crash may be a precursor to the symptoms of mood disorders, or with the umbrella term of depression. Research and studies have tied heavy sugar consumption to an increased risk of depression and worse outcomes in individuals with, in particular, schizophrenia. There are a couple of theories explaining the link, though. For starters, sugar suppresses activity of a hormone called BDNF that is low in individuals with depression and schizophrenia. So, for starters, once again, people with schizophrenia and depression have lower levels of this hormone called BDNF. Sugar is also at the root of chronic inflammation, which impacts the immune system, the brain, and other systems in the body. Also, inflammation has also been implicated in depression. Interestingly enough, though, countries with high sugar intake also have a high rate of depression. So for me, the overall summary and what I take home from this with depression is that, once again, that it doesn't matter where you come from or what country, even though there's different levels, but what it does matter is all human bodies, if you're taking in more sugar, if you're taking in more and you're taking in more and more daily, you do have a higher rate of developing type 2 diabetes and higher rates of depression, and in a study, interestingly enough, potentially you could develop schizophrenia or other mood disorders. All right, so number 2, addiction. Once again, although this is a controversial subject, a growing body of evidence points to the addictive potential of sugar, just like anything else. So both drugs and, to a lesser extent, sugar and processed junk foods flood the brain with the feel-good chemical known as dopamine, which over time changes the functions of the brain. And also, in a study by researchers at Yale University, the simple sight of a milkshake activated the same reward centers of the brain as cocaine among people with addictive eating habits. So it's just showing you right there in this study that anything that activates that dopamine system, it's that constant reward. So rather that would be, as stated, a milkshake, rather that would be, once again, sugar, drugs, you name it, anything can be addictive. Porn can be addictive if it's activating that dopamine system in your brain. Also, real quick, I wanted to mention this. A 2007 study showed that rats actually prefer sugar water to cocaine. Very interesting. Just wanted to throw that out there. Rats given fatty and sugary products demonstrated classic symptoms of addiction, including tolerance and withdrawal symptoms when the products were taken away, which makes complete sense. So my overall take from this, again, is, first off, anything can be addictive and can lead to addiction. Anything. It's not just sugar, it's not just drugs, it's anything. Heck, you can develop addictive traits or personalities in regards to anything, chess, sports, hobbies, anything. That's my point. Weird comparison that I just made, but the point is addiction is a very interesting subject to actually look into in regards to sugar, but just in general. So once again, sugar, you can become addicted to sugar, and you can once again develop withdrawal symptoms from it if you just cut it off abruptly. However, I will say long term, if you lower your sugar intake, you will start to feel better. Right away, it won't feel good, just like if drug withdrawal, caffeine withdrawal, but over time, it will help you and you will feel good. And that addictive, and that addiction to sugar and sugary substances, once you take some in again, it can really make you look back and be like, wow, why was I taking in so much sugar? Because I feel so bad right now after I've been doing a good job of limiting my sugar intake. Okay, number 3, anxiety. The standard American diet, which is full of sugar, and I mean full of sugar and fat, does not necessarily cause anxiety, but it does appear to worsen anxiety symptoms and impair the body's ability to cope with stress. Also, individuals who suffer from panic attacks, for example, are hyper alert to signs of impending danger. Sugar can also cause things such as blurry vision, difficulty thinking, and fatigue, all of which may be interpreted as signs of a panic attack, thereby increasing worry and fear. Also, have you ever heard of the term a sugar high and a subsequent crash following can cause shaking and tension, which can make anxiety a lot worse. So if you look at this once again with anxiety, things when you're taking in all this, when you're taking in abundance of sugar, I'm not saying to get away from sugar completely. I'm just saying if you're taking in a lot of sugar and you're noticing things like you're having more anxiety, or you're having difficulty thinking and fatigue and having these up and down crashes in regards to sugar, things such as anxiety are common and can actually be more managed with taking in less sugar. I'm not saying if you have panic attacks and you think all of a sudden that just reducing your sugar intake, if you take in high amounts, is going to fix it completely. You're widely mistaken. However, it could manage some of those anxiety attacks. That's all I'm saying. For me personally, when it comes to sugar, I have actually noticed over time. At one point, I was eating, this was a while back, just consuming a lot of sugar, a lot of sugary products. And I was like, oh, I'm not eating cake or things like that. And I'm working out daily, but every night I was eating ice cream, and I'd go to bed feeling bloated and just feeling bad. And even the next morning, just feeling very sluggish into the next day. And as well as feeling sluggish, I had difficulty thinking. I never had the blurry vision, but that fatigue I did notice. And sometimes I would notice things such as possibly thinking I could be having an anxiety attack from it. And also, I wanted to mention, research has established a correlation between sugar intake and anxiety. In a 2008 study, rats that binged on sugar and then fasted displayed anxiety. And then, in a 2009 study, rats fed sucrose compared to high antioxidant honey, which antioxidants, cancer reducing, that's what it is. So to high antioxidant honey were more likely to suffer from anxiety. Also, while dietary changes alone cannot cure anxiety, which what I just discussed prior, they can minimize or make the symptoms more manageable. They can also boost your energy levels long term and improve your body's ability to cope with stress. Okay, now number 4, cognitive ability or learning, or in more particular, which we'll dive into briefly, is a study in regards to memory and sugar. So sugar may also compromise cognitive abilities such as learning and memory. There was an animal study done at the University of California, 6 weeks, which in regards to this, it was 6 weeks of rats taking in a fructose solution, which would be similar to something like soda, and this caused the rats essentially to forget their way out of this maze they're in. So they're in this maze, they're taking in a high fructose solution similar to soda. They can't find their way out, so their short-term memory went to shit essentially. That was the first group. The second group, there were rats that ate a nutritious diet and those that consumed a high fructose diet that also included omega-3 fatty acids, and these ones found their way out faster. So in group number 2, these rats actually consumed still the product similar to soda, the high fructose solution, but they also had nutrition with it, and they were able to find their way out faster. Now that doesn't mean that, oh, see, sugar, it doesn't do anything, it's not a problem. No, they still consumed sugar, but they made sure to add nutrition to it. That's why I'm saying, once again, don't completely eliminate sugar out of your diet. It's learning how to manage it. So real quick, with the study as well, the high sugar caused insulin resistance also in these rats, which in turn damaged communications between the brain cells that fuel learning and memory formation. So what I'm taking from this study is learning and memory are critical when it comes to your sugar intake. And also I've noticed there have been studies that have shown that high sugar consumption can lower essentially your reading levels, or even being able to focus and read. So real quick, to sum up learning and memory and cognitive ability. So recognizing these and other risks, the trends in sugar consumption seem to be changing. People are consuming less sugar, about 13% of their daily calories, which is still far too much. So there is a slight decrease up to this point, but clear progress from 18%, but I'm sorry, this is clear progress from it being over 18% just over a decade ago. Remember, our bodies were never intended to handle the amount of sugar that has become the norm in the American diet, but at least now we're beginning to recognize that the mind and body are intricately connected and both must be, in essence, nurtured to achieve optimal health. So we're still, even though we've dropped from 18 to 13% in the last century, that's still far too much sugar in the standard American diet. there has been shown progress, but there still is, there have been studies coming out in even 2021 and starting in 2022 that sugar increase is on the rise again, right back up to that 18% or even 20%. So to summarize this whole spiel about sugar, the reason why I did this was because I've seen personally how sugar has affected me, and if I truthfully try to limit my sugar, not completely get away from it, but limit it with exercise, diet, nutrition, from a day-to-day basis, my learning and memory is a lot better. My anxiety and depression levels are a lot lower. And it helps you learn a sense of self-control and helps you understand that if you can manage this, you can manage really anything. Because if you're attacking something that you're having a problem with, an addictive substance of anything, and you're trying, that's what counts. So if it's hard for you, whether it's sugar, drugs, whatever, the fact that you're watching this and you're at least giving it you're trying shows that you do have promise and that you can beat it. And I'm telling you, the only time you do really learn to overcome is when you dig deep in those trenches. That's how humans evolved over time. That's how our ancestors made it to where we are today. They dug deep and they fought through their addictions and everything they went through as well. But that is your video. That is your daily dose of mental health. The next video I'll be dropping will be what it is like to work on a psych at a psych facility on a unit that is primarily composed of major depressive disorder and non-aggressive patients and borderline personality as well. Once again, please like and subscribe to the channel. I love you all. Leave a comment. Thank you for subscribing. Seriously, I really do appreciate it. I will get to all your comments over the next week. I love you all. I'll be dropping another video in around a week or so. Peace and love.